Fellow Guyanese, first of all, let me say good afternoon to everyone. I just returned from Glasgow, as you're aware, and I want to address two specific issues that is of great interest to the world and, of course, to our country. These two issues has to do with the global supply chain crisis and the issue of crime and what is our policies, our programs, or the measures that we're going to put in place to address these issues. I want, as I had promised, to be transparent with the Guyanese people. What I'll be doing today is presenting you with the facts, with reality, with what the government is doing to address issues that are global in nature, how we are defining policies to address these issues, the impact global challenges is having on our economy, and the way in which the government is addressing those challenges. I think it is very important for all of us as Guyanese to understand that we do not live in an isolated environment, that we are part of a global community, we are part of the process of globalization, and what occurs globally and the challenges that occurs globally also has effect on us locally. What every country has to do is to try as far as possible to define policies that help to mitigate against some of these global challenges. One of the major global challenges that we are faced with today as a global community is that of the impact, I won't say post-COVID, but the impact on supply chain as a result of COVID. As you would have recalled, the COVID-19 precipitated severe labor shortages globally. And these labor shortages came as a result of persons not being able to go to their workplace, factories shutting down, factories going on temporary closures, all in an effort to cope with the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. For instance, the zero COVID policy in China, a global manufacturing powerhouse, led to the temporary closure of port terminals that resulted in severe backlogs. Now, you have to imagine the United States, China, Germany. These are major players in the international market. And the closure of factories, the closure of terminals, the closure of port facilities created severe backlog for shipping. Not only did it create severe backlog, it created severe shortages of essential items like containers to facilitate the shipping industry and logistics and movement of goods and materials. And this continues. The dearth of labor continues. In the United States, for example, it has triggered congestion and other logistical difficulties. So even in the US, there is tremendous difficulties at the terminals for shipping and at the manufacturing level. All of this has affected the supply chain system. Now, what is the supply chain system? The supply chain system is basically the whole integrated logistical framework that move global goods, manufactured goods, that move containers from terminal to terminal. This is how the chain works. So if the leading manufacturer is having difficulties at the manufacturing end and at the shipping end, then you will understand that all those who participate in the process would also be affected. For example, the goods and the products we buy out of China. You have 6-month delays, 1-year delays. There are port charges, there are warehouse charges that are associated with these delays. These costs are then translated into new prices that consumers are facing globally. So the net effect of all of this is increased costs at the production level and increased costs at the logistics level. And that combined increase is what is driving up prices globally. And Guyana is not excluded from this phenomenon. The situation, as I speak to you, is compounded, and the forecast suggests that the supply chain prices underpinning the widespread hike in freight increase is expected to last a bit longer. There were some indication that by the first quarter of next year, things would normalize a bit, but what we have seen so far from all the forecasts is that this supply chain issue will continue to be a problem in the short term, at least in the short term. What has this resulted in? This has resulted in shortages of construction material, for example, widespread increases in construction material because the supply cannot meet the demand. And if there is a mismatch between supply and demand, then prices increase. So all of this is affecting the consumers globally. And here in Guyana too, we are seeing the results of that. The unfortunate result of this issue is shortages and increase in prices. Those are the two issues that we are faced with. And not only for construction material, for food supplies. And this is a major issue affecting developing countries. For example, in CARICOM, we are discussing this very issue. And some countries are already reporting that not only are the prices increasing, but more importantly, the direction that the supply chain issue is pointing in is that there will be shortages of food supply. That is why at CARICOM, we are pushing on an agenda to do what we call food replacement. That is to have a reduction in our food import bill by 25% and having the local production fill that void. So many measures, many countries are pursuing different measures. One of the important measures is to have more local consumption, because if the supply chain is not delivering in a timely manner and is delivering at a price that is not affordable, then you have to create more programs, give more incentive to increase local production. And that is what we are focusing on from the agricultural side. And you will see a lot of incentives and programs being announced to support the increase in food production, because this is critical in addressing the issue of food prices. Now, there are some commodities that we cannot avoid the importation of. And those commodities, of course, we are seeing increases in the prices. Now, one may say, so how is rice and sugar affected? Well, the price for grains, for example, on the international market went up by more than 40%. Now when the price of grains increased by 40%, you have to understand what this means. Grains are an important input to feed production. So if you have a 40% increase in the prices of grain, and grain is one of the main components of feed production as an input cost, then the cost of feed will increase, feedstock. And we are seeing that, that the cost of feed is increasing. Now when that cost increase, those who are the poultry producers, they are now buying feed at a higher cost. And the result of this higher cost in buying feed is that the end product, which will be the chicken, also increases. So this is how the supply chain works. This is how the economy is integrated. This is how the issues that we are faced with is evolving. And of course, we have to take steps to address these issues, and I will discuss some of those steps in a few moments. Now, China, which is a major supplier on the global market, has announced new lockdown measures. in some areas in Europe, there are also new lockdown measures. And all of this will add to the already volatile situation that would lead to more increases in factory prices. For a matter of fact, the lockdown so far has triggered a 10% increase, in factory price. And this is the fastest growth in increase since the 1990s. Can you imagine this? The increases that we are seeing is not only increases that is coming gradually. It is fast-paced increases for goods. And in China, for example, is the fastest increases we have seen since the early 90s. In the United States, let's take the United States as another example. The Consumer Price Index for October indicated that 12-month inflation stood at 6.2%, the highest level in 3 decades. This is the results of what countries are faced with. 6.2%, the inflation level, 12-month inflation level of the United States, the highest level in the last 3 decades. In Germany, a major economy with a stellar record of fighting inflation, Germany has an amazing record at fighting inflation. And their headline rate, their inflation rate, is above 4% now, the highest since the adoption of the euro in 1999. So I'm just giving these examples so you can see globally what we are faced with. Even the more complex and sophisticated economies are facing these challenges. In the UK, inflation has seen the biggest jump since 1997. This is in the UK. Inflation has seen the biggest jump since 1997. The net effect of this inflationary pressure is the increase in prices. That is the net effect. If we want to boil it down to the impact it has on the consumer, it is the increase in prices. And it is driven by issues in the supply chain, at the manufacturing end, at the logistics end, at the transport end, and now, of course, at the labor end, because the big manufacturers are having severe difficulties and labor shortages, which is adding to the problem you're faced with. So, given the interconnected nature of modern economies, as I said earlier, Guyana has also been impacted by the global supply chain. And we have seen this in the first half of the year. In the report, we have seen inflationary pressures. And this has resulted in a 5.6% increase in the local consumer prices recorded. So we are not isolated. Just as Barbados, just as Trinidad and Tobago, just as Jamaica, just as the entire CARICOM, we are not isolated from this problem. And indeed, we are seeing it already, a 5.6% increase in the consumer price index. Now, so in an effort to address this problem since we came into government, we met COVID, we had the challenges of COVID, and the continuous challenges that we face now with the supply chain issues. So how do we address this issue? As a country, we have to address this issue first at the production level. We have to ensure that as far as possible, we give incentives to reduce the input costs of production. We have to give incentives and support the farmers in bringing down the cost of food production. And then we have to implement measures that would cushion the net effect of the increased cost of freight. Those are issues that we have to address, and we have addressed all of those. Importantly, too, we have to put more resources back into the economy, especially for the vulnerable people, so that they can have greater access to resources during these difficult global situations, this difficult global situation. So for example, on the tax side, we removed the VAT on electricity and water. This directly put back more cash in the pockets of people. We restored the zero-rated status on basic food items and household items that were moved from zero-rated to standard rate or exempt over the past 5 years. All of these measures, the net effect is to remove more tax burden from the population and give them an opportunity to have those resources as disposable income. Instead of paying taxes, you get that money back as disposable income. And the measures that we have implemented are praised by many international agencies and organizations. They are actually used as good practice in combating the challenges we are facing globally. We also, for example, reduced the water tariff by 5%. So the water rate or the water bill was reduced by 5% across the board. The reduction of license fees by 50%, land rental, lease fees. These are all fees that we reduce, reducing the burden on landowners, on the farmers, on the poultry producers. Remove VAT on data so that you have more money that can be spent on essentials to cushion the effect of the increases in essential commodities. Remove the VAT on cell phone. Now, fuel is another big ticket item. Globally, we are seeing the continuous rise in the cost of fuel. But what did we do? We reduced the cost of fuel in Guyana. We reduced the excise tax applicable to fuel imports, gasoline and diesel, from 50% in February 2021 to 20% in October 2021. We reduced the excise tax by 30% on fuel and on gasoline and diesel to cushion the effect of the global increases. There are very, very few economies that would have done this. We did that to cushion the effect. These are all measures that we have already implemented to support the local economy, support the productive sector, support because the diesel and gasoline, that 30% goes directly to the miners, goes directly to those who are in forestry, goes directly to the minibus operators, the taxi operators. These are measures that would have had a major impact in helping us to manage the full effect of the transfer or the imported inflation that I'm talking about. Additionally, the government implemented numerous non-tax measures, all intended to provide immediate relief to our people and increase household disposable income. For example, the one-off payment of $25,000 made to all public servant employees, benefiting more than 60,000 at a cost of $2 billion. The reintroduction of the year-end bonus for members of the disciplined forces. This is $500 million we're putting back in the pockets of people directly. The provision of the $25,000 COVID-19 relief grant per household, another $8 billion. Supporting our school children, $3.6 billion in cash grant. Restoring the cash grant, which will place in excess of $3.3 billion into the hands of parents, benefiting 172 students across our country. So in these few measures alone, we are talking about more than $15 billion that the government give back directly to the population to help in cushioning the effect of what I'm speaking about. Then we also had we extended the cash grant for students attending private schools. That's another $320 million. We increased old age pension from $20,000 to $25,000. Plus, we give an added month in the pension, in the old age pension. So instead of 12 months, they receive 13 months of pension. And that is close to $4 billion we have given to the pensioners. An increase in public assistance from 9,000 to 12,000. And this provided an additional $500 million of support for vulnerable people. So the government has not been sitting down. Every single day, every single month, we have been working out measures. We have been implementing measures. We have been implementing programs to cushion this effect that we did not cause. To cushion this effect that is global in nature. To cushion this effect that we cannot escape because we are part of a global community. We are part of the process of globalization. To assist the vulnerable group further, we had a one-off grant of $25,000, as I said, to all old age pensioners, amounting to $1.6 billion. We had a 25% public assistance grant to persons with disability, another vulnerable group. This amounted to another $600 million. An electricity credit paid to GPL on behalf of every household consuming not more than 75 kilowatt hours per month. This amounted to $200 million, benefiting 40,000 households. These are all direct injection, direct cash transfers we made to the population. The support to the farmers, the support to the sugarcane workers. All of these measures, all of these cash transfers, all of these policies resulted in the minimizing of the net effect of the full impact of the rising prices globally. Now, it is envisaged that the adjustment of freight charges, and this is another issue, we adjusted the freight charges. And that adjustment would save importers $4 billion. The adjustment we made between the 1st of August 2021 on freight charges and to January 30th, 2022 will result in $6 billion being put back in the pockets of people. $6 billion. We forego $6 billion of taxes to help cushion the cost of the increases in the cost of freight. And we expect the importers to pass this benefit on to the consumer. I thought it was very important for us to have this discussion. It was very important for me to explain what is happening globally, the effect on our country, the policies and programs we have already implemented to cushion that effect. And in the short and medium term, we'll continue to focus on policies and programs to improve the conditions, to reduce the effect of this global crisis on Guyana. And very soon, we are already in discussion, examining the financial situation of government. As I said before, we have to announce the increase for the public servants. We have to support the joint forces. We have our frontline workers. These are all ongoing discussions within the government. And soon you will see the results of those discussions, because we recognize that this is a continuous problem and the government has to be proactive in addressing these issues. And I want you to know that just as we have done over the last year plus, we will continue to pursue measures that minimize the effect on the people of our country, that minimize the effect on your pockets. You can rest assured. And that is why, as president, I wanted to do this myself, because I promised the population we will not hide from any issues. We will address you in an open and transparent manner. We'll address you in a manner in which you will understand and know your government is working for you. Now, the issue of fertilizer is one that is topical. So what we have seen is prices for fertilizer, for example, has surged globally. And the fertilizer price have skyrocketed because of a number of reasons. One, the price of natural gas is skyrocketing. The soaring increases in the cost of natural gas, a prime input for the production of fertilizer, is driving fertilizer prices up tremendously. That is why the pipeline and the natural gas is so important for our future, so that we can have our own local production. We can control our local production. We can have our own programs and policies that will help our farmers to have stable prices. The rise in fertilizer costs has nothing to do with anything that has happened locally. It is a direct result of these factors I'm speaking about. The soaring prices of natural gas. And what we have seen, and a more important result of this rising cost, is that it is forcing many production plants to reduce their production or close. So many of the fertilizer plants, in response to these increases, they're either reducing their production or they're closing. What that means? That means that we will have a compounded problem, because demand, there will be a mismatch between demand and supply. And if there is a mismatch between demand and supply, then you can expect more challenges. For example, the US spot prices for potash and urea, a form of nitrogen fertilizer, have more than doubled this year. Urea, we all know urea. The price, the US spot price for this urea has doubled this year. But we are not sitting down and waiting for the situation to correct itself. Your government is actively pursuing bilateral discussions to have a direct import of fertilizer. That is what the government is doing at this moment. The last 4 weeks, we have initiated discussion with many of our bilateral partners directly to get the fertilizer in, to minimize the impact of this increase. And we're doing this so that the farmers, the sugar industry, the rice producers, they can all benefit. Because if we don't bring down the cost, we know too that the cost of rice, the final product, will also increase. But in all of this that the government is doing, there is something that we call a moral responsibility. The measures that we are implementing to help the importers, to help the farmers, to help the consumers, to help the producers, we expect them to act in a way that befits their moral responsibility to the consumer. And that moral responsibility is to pass on the benefits that you receive as a result of this intervention to the consumer, to minimize the impact to the consumer. I must say that the members of the Poultry Association has been in constant contact with us. And I can say to you that they are working tirelessly to minimize this impact. And we expect all other sectors to play a part. This is a global challenge that requires us to act collectively, that requires us to support each other. This is not a global crisis that anyone should look at profiteering off. No. You have a greater responsibility to the society. And you should not look at profiteering. We are in this together. Your government would confront these challenges with strong, workable measures. But we also need the support of all the stakeholders. So that is the first issue I wanted to address with you. The second issue that I've seen persons asking the President to speak about is that of crime. Now for me, one crime is too much. Where is petty, where is major, one crime is too much. But let me tell you something. And I'm speaking frankly to my Guyanese brothers and sisters. When we came into government, more than 90% of the assets of the Guyana police force was out of order. This is what we encountered. More than 90% of the vehicular assets, the motorbikes, were out of order. They were fighting crime with 10% capacity. With 10% capacity. Notwithstanding that, we buckled down. We made the investments. We invested in vehicles. We invested in technology. And we went out on our mission to reduce crime regionally. What we have seen so far, comparing to the same period 2020, we have seen a 19.4% decrease in crime. Now this is the statistics. This, you make policies based on the statistics. 19.4%. If you see this column here, 19.4% reduction in crime. So what are the areas of concern? And I want to address the issue, the big issues. For example, in Region 1, we have the largest increase of crime. 132.4% increase in crime. From 37 to 86. So although we had a 19.4% reduction in crime nationally, there are some hot spots that we have to manage. Now, what is there in Region 1 that is different? We know that there is an increased migrant population. There is displacement. And of course, this is causing social, economic issues. A resultant factor is crime. So we are now targeting some specific policies and programs to deal with Region 1. Because if we are to reduce crime by 50% in Region 1, then the national crime rate will be further reduced by more than 25%. However, whilst we saw that increase in Region 1, when you go to Region 4A, Region 4A has the largest decrease. A decrease of 43.4%. This is an area that we had tremendous difficulties with in the past. Region 5, we have seen a decrease of 52.1%. So, one of the things that we are considering is incentivizing the police force. Where there is good performance, there must be differentiated treatment. You must be recognized for good performance. Incentive-based crime fighting. But much more than that. In order to have an evenness, and if you look at Region 3, 4, 4A, 4B, 4C, Region 5, what we have seen is in the areas that are covered under the Safe City program that we are having better results. That is why, to address all the regions nationally, we are going to have a Safe Country program. We're going to have the entire country connected onto CCTV cameras, so that all of the country will be on the watch by the relevant authorities, so that we can be proactive in crime fighting. And a lot of the work that we are doing in crime fighting, and a lot of the investment we are going to make, is in intelligence gathering. And I will show you the results of intelligence gathering and investment in intelligence gathering. You will see that more crimes were caught even before they were committed, or cracked before they were committed, because of the proactive work and the intelligence gathering. The intelligence gathering has to be community-centered, community-oriented, community-supported. And we have to develop a trust between the police force and the community themselves. And that is what we're doing. Addressing the issue of trust, bridging that gap, integrating the community in crime fighting, proactively approaching this. And then if you look at the breakdown of crime, robbery under arms, we had a 32.4% decrease. Robbery with aggravation, a 44.7% decrease. However, if you look at rape, we had a 55% increase. And this is an issue we have to get tough on. This is one of the areas that we have to see tremendous improvement. So if you look, for example, and I'm sharing this with you, this is the statistics. There is nothing to hide. I promise you a transparent government. Every category, every single category. I don't know if you're seeing it on the screen, but I'll even post it up after. Every single category of crime, you will see the comparison between last year and this year. The green arrow are those that went down. This is a kind of a burnt out red arrow is those that increase. There is a numbers there also. If you're not seeing it, we will also share this. Every single category of crime. Every single category of crime. Then let me turn to the issue of robbery under arms. There are 3 regions, well, 4 regions, that we are going to implement targeted measures. In Region 1, in 2020, we had 1 robbery under arms. In comparison, this time we have 6. If you look at the percentage, although it's only an increase of 5, that's a 500% increase. Region 6, we had an increase of robbery under arms. Region 7 and Region 9. So although nationally we had a reduction of robbery under arms by 32.4%, we had an increase in Region 1, increase in Region 6, increase in 7, and increase in 9. And then we have to look at the peculiarities in those regions that would have led to this increase. And that is the type of detailed work we're doing to address crime. Not guesswork. Not guesswork. So what I've asked the AG to look at the laws and to apply the highest penalty, to propose an amendment, to apply the highest penalty of persons found with illegal weapons. Because that is a major contributory factor to this. We're going to give a period for all those persons with illegal weapons to deposit those weapons. After which the law will be amended to give you the greatest penalty. The greatest penalty. Now, those persons with illegal weapons, or those persons who are associated with criminal activities, I have a message for you too. Very soon we'll launch a program, very confidential program, to bring you in once you want to change your life. We want a discussion with you. We want to talk to you to give you an alternative pathway to earning an income and living a decent life. The life of crime is short-lived. It may have in your head short-term glory, but it's short-lived. We want to work with you on giving you a better option at life. And we're going to be pursuing a program to directly interact with those persons also. Now, if you look here, and this is the type of work that is going on, not guesswork. We have robbery under arms by home, on the street, and in businesses. That is how far the statistics goes. To break down the analysis for decision-making and policy-making by home, street, and business. That is this slide here. If you're seeing it, you would see that 37.7% of all the robbery under arms occur on the streets. So which means we have to put more effort on the street. We have to put more efforts on the street. Then 33.6% occur at businesses. And we see this is the downward slope, sorry. The downward slope. If we go on now, and this, and sometimes, the police comes in for a lot of criticism. But I'm just trying to demonstrate to you the detailed work that goes into the strategy. Now we have here robbery under arms by day. So this tells us which day robbery under arms is more prevalent, and in which areas and in which regions. For example, you will see on Saturday, if you look at it here, on Saturday, 92 robbery under arms so far this year. So on Saturday is what we will consider a high-risk day. So now we have to build our strategy to address this. By days, the nature of crime, the way in which they operate. This is the level of statistics that we have been working on so that policing and crime fighting can be targeted. And that is what we are doing. Fighting crime in a targeted manner. If we are to go on further, I'm just explaining the work to the population. She will see what is going on. Here is it. We have broken down not only by days, but by the time in the day when crime occurs. So we have by region, by days, and now even by the time during the day that that people are most vulnerable. And that would require more targeted work. So for example, if you look here, you will see that between 12 p.m. and 6 p.m., that is when most of the robbery on the arms occur. Between 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now, this is by hours in a day. This is the level of analysis that we're doing now to have a more structured and targeted approach to crime fighting. If you look at the type of weapons that is being used, you will see that mostly it is a pistol that is used. So I want to go to one other data. Let us look at the clear-up rate. What is the clear-up rate? You know, there is a belief that nothing gets solved in the Guyana police force, that no crime gets solved. But you'll be surprised to know that we have one of the highest clear-up rate regionally. One of the highest clear-up rate regionally. For example, this year, we have seen a 6.5% improvement in the clear-up rate for murder. A 6.5% improvement in the clear-up rate for murder. That is 68.1% of murder we have already cleared up. We have been able to charge people. We have been able to bring people before the court. And the same thing, if you look at that larceny, 59% clear-up rate. There are some areas that you remain weak. I'm not only, I said to you, I'm transparent with you. There are some areas that remain weak and that we must build capacity. And those areas, for example, are the clear-up rate for rape and the clear-up rate for robbery with violence. Those two areas we'll have to focus heavily on to ensure that we have higher clear-up rate in those categories. We are very dissatisfied with the clear-up rate in those categories. If you look at the wanted bulletins, and these are people who are wanted for murder, we have more than 20 persons out there who has been identified or associated with a murder, and wanted bulletin has been issued for them. If those 20 persons are to be accounted for by way of an arrest, then our clear-up rate for murder will go close to 85%. Close to 85%. So there are challenges. There are challenges. Crime has been decreasing, but we are still not satisfied. That is why we are going to strengthen our regional capacity. We are investing in human resource training and development. We are improving the working condition. And we are going to improve the whole welfare package for our men and women in uniform. And we're going to hold them more accountable. Greater presence is needed. And we're going to incentivize those who are high performers. These are the things we'll be doing. We're not hiding from any issue. You do not have a president who will hide from any issue. I am going to be upfront in dealing with every issue that challenges the people of this country. I'm committed to working every single day to making your life better. And you can be assured of this. So my dear brothers and sisters, my Guyanese brothers and sisters, I'm thankful for this opportunity to address you. Not in any formal address, but in a conversational way, so that I can bring you up to date on two key issues and let you know that we are stronger together for one Guyana. God bless all of you. Thank you.